How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Tonight on The Late Show Live, even the nutters at Hamas want Tony Blair nowhere near the post-war Gaza. Hello, good evening on The Late Show Live tonight.
We ended the war in Gaza and really, on a much bigger basis, created peace. And I think it's going to be a lasting peace, hopefully an everlasting peace.
Yes, the president of peace. Hamas declares the war is finally over and Israel has just signed the deal. Now we're just hours away from finding out who has scooped the Nobel Peace Prize. Will it be President Trump? I'll be joined by a family member of an Israeli hostage shortly. Also on the show tonight.
I think the US and the UK can both probably benefit from more immigration.
Yeah, you heard that right. The UK can benefit from more immigration. Yeah, right. That's what former Donald Trump aide John Bolton told me. But tonight, the government promised return flights. They promised to get illegals out the country. Now, they're taking a victory lap too, because the first illegal migrants are finally returned under the new UK-France agreement. But the truth is in the numbers. And the real numbers, which I'll reveal shortly, will leave you screaming at your telly.
Will he, in the interests of public safety, follow the lead of France, Denmark, Belgium and others and ban the burqa?
Ban the burqa. That's what Reform MP Sarah Pochin has suggested. Now, Italy's Prime Minister wants it written into law as she warns against Islamic separatism. Plus,
they're poisoning our kids. They're telling them to be ashamed of their country.
Leave the kids alone. That's the explosive claim from Nigel Farage as he accuses the Marxist left of being in control of both the British and American education systems. Plus,
he literally made money by charging women on the promise that he could literally enlarge the size of their breasts by hypnotising them.
An explosive and hilarious row has erupted tonight between Zia Youssef and the new Green Party leader. I'll have more on that in just a bit. We'll also be diving headfirst into the stories from tomorrow's newspaper front pages, hours before they hit the shelves back in Blighty. And of course, we're live in Washington, D.C., just yards from the White House, bringing you the stories America's talking about and that matter to you in Britain too, like this one. it's the stuff from my own personal nightmares. That was the extraordinary moment a passenger jet came crashing down and exploded into flames back in December. Tonight, President Putin of Russia has made a shocking admission. I'm Ben Leo. This is The Late Show Live, and your night's just getting started. Good evening, thank you for your company. We're just hours away from the Nobel Peace Prize being announced, and tonight the question is simple. Will it be Donald Trump? Because the president has declared, finally, peace in the Middle East as a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas takes hold, with hostages, hallelujah, being freed early next week.
Last night we reached a momentous breakthrough in the Middle East, something that people said was never going to be done. We ended the war in Gaza and really, on a much bigger basis, created peace. And I think it's going to be a lasting peace, hopefully an everlasting peace. Peace in the Middle East. We secured the release of all of the remaining hostages, and they should be released on Monday or Tuesday. Getting them is a complicated process. I'd rather not tell you what they have to do to get them. There are places you don't want to be.
Our own Prime Minister, the great noble Sir Kier Starmer, very high grade, was heaping praise on President Trump during his visit to India.
My thanks to President Trump for his leadership on this, to the Qataris, to Egypt and Turkey, who've done really important work in the negotiations.
He did refuse to say, by the way, whether he thinks President Trump should be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. He wouldn't commit to it. But elsewhere in Israel, a farmer's ploughed his field with the inscription Nobel for Trump following the announcement of the deal. And scenes of absolute jubilation filled the streets of Khan Yunis in the Gaza Strip. There are the scenes on your TV now if you're watching on television. And the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, has also called on President Trump to be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. That was on a post on his official X account. So in less than 5 hours' time, could President Trump be waking up as a Nobel Peace Prize winner? He wants it, of course, and tonight he said that President Obama got a Peace Prize and he didn't even do anything to win it. But the bigger question tonight is, will peace in the Middle East actually last? Because even as the ink dries tonight, peace may already be unravelling. A senior Hamas official has, within the past few moments, flat out rejected Tony Blair's role in Trump's so-called Board of Peace to oversee Gaza's post-war administration. So even the sick death cult terrorist nutjobs at Hamas want nothing to do with Tony Blair. Let's get the views of human rights activist Peter Thatcher now, who joins me live from the UK. Peter, good evening. Should President Trump be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize? It could come in a matter of hours.
I think it is a bit premature, although you're right, President Trump, together with leaders of Arab states like Qatar, did play a collective role which brought us this deal. I think moving forward, we have to say, well, you don't really or shouldn't really get a Nobel Prize for one single act, which is just beginning, and we don't know where it's going to end up. It may well unravel. I think it's premature to say.
Well, he said he solved 8 wars, including this, Peter. Sorry to interrupt. He said it would have been 8 wars solved, concluded, including this one, and he reckons Ukraine, Russia will be next.
Well, if he was able to pull off a ceasefire and a resolution in Ukraine and Russia, that would definitely deserve him to get the Nobel Peace Prize. You know, I disagree with him.
Not the first
but I respect the fact that he has played a role in securing one big deal, and let's get the next one in Ukraine, and then I think we can definitely think seriously about supporting him for the Nobel Peace Prize.
Okay, but Peter, it would be number 8. So you had India, Pakistan, Trump solved it. Congo against Rwanda, Cambodia and Thailand, Egypt and Ethiopia, Armenia and Azerbaijan. It goes on and on. I mean, so it's not just the big one in the Middle East. You could argue it's the biggest of all, but it's a litany. You still wouldn't suggest President Trump has a Nobel Peace Prize for that. I mean, as Trump said tonight, Obama got one for doing nothing. Can you tell me what Obama got one for?
Well, no, and I didn't agree with Obama getting the Nobel Peace Prize. You know, he had, as you said, he hadn't done anything. But going back to the situation with Trump, I mean, you know, I'm prepared to give him credit. Yeah, absolutely, and I think also should be shared, as I said, with Qatar and other other Arab states that played a role as well. But in terms of actually getting over that hurdle, we don't know how successful this ceasefire deal is going to be. Hopefully it will, and we don't know what's going to come after that. So I think I would say, with dignity, President Trump should perhaps wait till next year and then hopefully get the crowning glory of proving this one successful, but also getting a ceasefire deal done in Ukraine as well.
Okay, you've got a very high bar, Peter Tatchell, very high bar. Thank you for your company tonight, really appreciate it, and we'll catch up soon. Let's bring in my panel now tonight, the foreign correspondent Sarah Firth and the former aide to Margaret Thatcher, Niall Gardner. Good evening to you both, thank you for your company. Sarah, ladies first, should President Trump, it's going to be announced in a few hours, the Nobel Peace Prize winner. Should it be President Trump?
Well, look, I agree with what Peter Thatcher said in that it's possibly a little premature when we're talking about this current ceasefire deal, right? It's the first phase that's been agreed that President Trump announced. It's very fragile. It's a fragile moment. So I think it's a difficult moment to talk about sort of peace prizes when we're not close to peace yet. We're just on the very first step towards progress with this first phase. President Trump himself, he's going to the Middle East. You know, we heard in the cabinet meeting today, Ben, in the White House, just heaps of praise from his cabinet, right? The Secretary of State just talking about one day perhaps we'll hear the full story about what actually happened in the lead up to this. There is no question the name on everyone's lips today in Israel, in Gaza and around the world is President Trump. But when it comes to peace prizes, it's a little bit too early.
Okay, well, what about the 7 other wars he solved, the ones I partly listed off to Peter Tatchell there?
I think we get through this one and maybe we can talk about it again.
Okay. Niall, Hamas tonight have said Tony Blair shouldn't be anywhere near post-war Gaza. I mean, coming from Hamas, I mean, that's some statement. Also, do you think, just on the previous point, do you think President Trump should be awarded the Peace Prize?
Absolutely, yes. I think that President Trump thoroughly deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. Barack Obama, of course, thoroughly did not deserve.
Do you know what he got his for?
I can't even remember what he got the award for. Absolutely nothing.
Well, it was more for rhetoric. It was more for his.
It was for empty, flowery rhetoric.
I mean, he dropped more bombs on the Middle East than any other president combined.
Yeah, I don't think Obama did anything at all to advance the cause of peace. President Trump has a clear track record of successes. And you read them all out earlier, actually, including averting potential war between India and Pakistan, which is that was a major achievement. And I do think the president should be fully recognised here. He deserves a Nobel Peace Prize far more than anyone else in recent years, frankly, and he would be a highly worthy recipient. 100% right, I think, to award him the Nobel Peace Prize.
Do you know, Trump's been so focused on it, though. I was talking to some journalists today and we were saying you kind of almost need him to keep that obsession going for another year so that he solves even more wars around the world with the aim of the
That's what Peter Thatcher was just saying, yeah. Sarah, where does Kier Starmer and the UK, what role have we had in all this? I mean, does Kier Starmer, has he been made to look a little bit stupid off the back of this? Because, A, he recognised Palestine as a state when Trump left, just seconds afterwards. And I just can't see what we've done to help things, or what Kier Starmer's done at least to help things. I
think that's a fair criticism, and I think Starmer has, you know, come in for a lot of criticism for just doing too little, too late, frankly. As for the UK's involvement, that they got on board with recognising Palestinian statehood. I think it's very difficult now with this conversation, right, around Tony Blair, the former Prime Minister, and his potential role. Look,
what do you make of Hamas's comments?
I was Middle East correspondent for so many years. Just every country, Ben, that you go to, he is despised by so many people. Just the legacy of the Iraq War runs so deep. You know, that was based on faulty intelligence that he pushed, and there was so many dead as a result of that. So to even suggest that he could have a role, for all his diplomatic chops, in coming in and sort of a post-war Gaza peace, I think is pretty ludicrous.
Do you think he's arrogant, Niall, Tony Blair? Do you think he's arrogant in even being willing to come and take this position up? I mean, as Sarah said, you were an international correspondent in the Middle East for many years. Can you think of any country or group of people who would support him?
No, I mean, the Americans, unfortunately, seem to like him a lot. Have you ever met him?
I do think, yes, I have. I have met.
What's he like in person?
And well, I mean, he's a very charming figure, certainly. But yes, he's arrogant, and he's got a lot of things wrong, including Brexit, I might add. Actually, he was disastrously wrong, I think, in his widespread support for the European Union. and he should be held to account over that. And on the issue of Kier Starmer and his involvement, I think Starmer's been absolutely useless and counterproductive. And his call to recognise a Palestinian state is exactly what Hamas wanted. That didn't help at all. I know in the White House they were not impressed at all by Starmer's intervention alongside Emmanuel Macron, whose own government is collapsing.
Yeah.
And so you have the two weakest leaders in Europe, Starmer and Macron, trotting out their support for a Palestinian state, actually undermining President Trump. So they did nothing at all, in fact, to support this peace deal. They've been hugely counterproductive.
Yeah.
And I have to say, he's completely useless on the world stage overall. I mean,
Well, I mean, the funny thing is, Starmer's in India. Kier Starmer's in India right now, and I was watching GB News earlier. Catherine Forster, our political correspondent, she asked him a question and said, "Look, you are so revered in India, and when you go abroad, you seem to be sort of up there on the international stage, but domestically at home, it's the complete opposite." As she was saying, in India, there was massive billboards with Kier Starmer's face everywhere, his face sort of adorning all the streets and so on.
Frightening, actually.
Yeah. I was going to ask you a question, and that's come back into my mind. When you worked for Margaret Thatcher, your old boss, what was the situation like in the Middle East then between Palestine and Israel? Gaza and Israel?
So I did actually work for her after she was Prime Minister.
Right.
But, of course, a time of tremendous tensions. She was somebody who strongly supported, of course, Israel and Israel's right to defend itself. And I think today she would be giving her 100% support, of course, to the Israelis as they fight bravely against not only Hamas, but a whole host of Iranian-backed terrorist organizations.
Yeah. The reason I ask, Sarah, is because I just wonder, look, this is a momentous occasion, a big day. I just wonder whether it will be the last of it. In 10 years, 15 years, are we going to sort of renew hostilities?
I mean, look, this whole moment came about, and again at the cabinet meeting earlier, we heard the Secretary of State alluding to some of these critical moments leading up to where we are now. So you had Netanyahu's miscalculation, I think a lot of people would agree in political circles, carrying out the attack in Qatar. Then you had the UN General Assembly, and you had President Trump really getting together the Muslim majority and Arab nations and applying, he managed, Trump himself personally, to apply pressure to Netanyahu to bring about what is no question a historic moment. Can that pressure be sustained into the future? Can we see the first phase lead to a second phase? I think right now everyone's just super worried and focused on getting the hostages home, getting the IDF withdrawn to those lines agreed, and seeing where we can go from there.
Yeah, and I guess the other big question, which we can maybe discuss later, is will there be a need ever again for these pro-Palestine marches on the streets of London, New York? I was out the other day. If the killing has ended, the civilians and the children and babies won't be slaughtered anymore on both sides, will there be a need for these protests?
Ghastly protests, I
argue, yeah. I mean, I argue they'll probably still do them because actually it's not about ending the killing. It's probably about something else.
Because they're a nasty, malevolent bunch. They'll still be out on the streets.
Yeah, well, there was a guy in New York the other night. I was there. We had the clip. He was waving a Hamas flag. So, yeah, there we go. Earlier today, outside the White House, I was doing some live reports into Martin Daubney's show and so on. And standing on the sidelines were an Israeli family who were on holiday in Washington, D.C. Two of the sons were in the IDF. I spoke to one of them and asked for their reaction about President Trump's impending peace deal.
Mostly it means for me that my brothers and my sister coming back home. I don't look at it like what my job gonna be like. I look at it like I'm a brothers and sister coming back home. And for me, I don't look at it personally. I look at my country right now. We're very divided. It's not gonna be like that anymore. And at the moment, I think that because of the hostages coming home and because the war is about to end, it's going to make my life just better. Not because I'm joining the army, just because it ends.
Yeah, the hostages are back. You mentioned about the division in Israel. What is that division? Is it about the approach Netanyahu has taken to end the war and get the hostages back? Is that what it's about?
It's about many things, but mostly it's about how the war should end. Should we give them what they want, or should we fight back and comparate an aggressive military defense? But in my opinion, the thing that mostly divides Israel right now is how to end this war. And in my opinion, President Trump's plan to end the war is the right.
That lad there was signing up to the IDF. He's been this conscription in Israel. He's signing up for the first time in December, so in a couple of months. And I said to him, Niall, are you feeling quite relieved that the war has ended just before you sign up? And he said, well, the biggest thing for me is that my brother and sister, who had previously served in the IDF, have come home in one piece. What is the future like now for Netanyahu, do you think, in Israel? Because the young lad there said the country is so split on Netanyahu.
Yeah, no, I think, firstly, I think Netanyahu has been outstanding, actually, in fighting Hamas, defeating Hamas, and also defeating all of the Iranian-backed terror organizations, Hezbollah as well, taking on the Houthis also. So I think Netanyahu deserves a great deal of credit, actually, and I think he can emerge even stronger as a result of this. And also, Netanyahu is a very popular figure among US conservatives, actually. There's very strong support for the role that he has played. He has had a very robust relationship with President Trump, some disagreements at various times, but overall a very close-knit partnership, which has made this peace deal possible. So he deserves a lot of credit here.
But Sarah, of course, there is still international arrest warrants out for Netanyahu, so I wonder what's going to happen with that.
That interview, Ben, honestly was phenomenal. It's just such an insight and a reminder, I think, of this moment, the stakes of this, the human lives that on both sides are involved. And I think everyone tonight, we've watched some of the scenes play out in Gaza and in Israel, the families of the hostages. He was talking about his brother and sister coming home in one piece. That's really, I think, front and center of people's minds. 2 years of this devastating war, and now all sides looking at a potential of a tomorrow where airstrikes, funerals, that horrible fear for the hostage families about whether their loved ones are alive, where that could potentially be over. So the stakes couldn't be higher. And you really captured it there. At the heart of this is a very human story.
Yeah, no, well said, well said. gbnews.com/your say. Let me know your thoughts on all the situation in Gaza tonight. Of course, Tony Blair, President Trump with the Peace Prize. We'll be announcing in a few hours the Peace Prize, so we could be breaking some news that President Trump has finally got what he wanted. Heather, you've said Blair is an arrogant, twisted, money-making warmonger, a globalist, and we all hate him. Heather, say what you really think. And William said Netanyahu has been a strong leader and done a very good job. And non-compliance #1. I love your username. You said when Trump says he's a great guy, quote unquote, he means the exact opposite. He's played a blinder here, Blair. Starmer and co are spitting bricks. Very clever, as he's just reminded the whole world what a demonic, I can't say that word, person Blair is. There we go. Still ahead on the Late Show Live tonight. That was the moment a Azerbaijan Airlines passenger jet came crashing out the sky in December. Tonight, President Putin of Russia has made a rather shocking admission. More on that shortly. But first, a story you won't want to miss.
I think the US and the UK can both probably benefit from more immigration.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on,
we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. I'm Ben Leo. The government has taken another momentous step. That's their words, by the way, momentous. Remember that caveat. Momentous step in tackling Britain's border crisis by returning, guess this, a whopping 19 migrants to France in the past week. Whoop-de-doo. In a big press release tonight, patting themselves on the back, the Home Office announced their grand total of deported migrants is now up to 26 for the month, as the second flight touched down in France earlier today. Speaking exclusively to GB News, Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood said, "This is just the beginning. The government will do whatever it takes to dismantle the smugglers' business model, get people out of expensive hotels and end the chaos at the border." That's, of course, despite just days ago GB News revealing more than 10,000 migrants have crossed the channel since the deal came into force on the 3rd of August. Well, I spoke to President Trump's former National Security Advisor, John Bolton, earlier this week. He told me what the UK could learn from the US on stopping immigration and whether he'd give Trump credit for completely obliterating, annihilating illegal migration at the southern border. Take a look.
Yeah, look, I do think he's closed the southern border. He closed the southern border in his first term, too. It's not hard to do. If you tell people you're not going to get in illegally, they're not going to walk across Central America and Mexico to get there. And I think that this proves the value of deterrence. People are deterred if they know they're not going to succeed. And I think Britain could do the same thing. You want to catch the illegals, in your case, at sea, but what you really want to do is prevent them from getting into boats in the first place.
Well, yeah, what's the issue then? I mean, you said it's not hard to do. So what is the issue with Britain and this Labour government, as far as you can tell? Why don't they just do it?
Well, it's a question of willpower. I mean, if everybody knows that they set out for Britain in a boat and they're not going to make it Britain and they're going to be turned around, or if they do, they're going to be sent somewhere else, they're going to stop coming. People are mostly rational, and I think that's the way to do it. I think the U.S. and the U.K. can both probably benefit from more immigration, but it's got to be done under our rules. We, the citizens, determine who comes in to be citizens in the future, not the illegal immigrants. I think immigration for the U.S. historically has been the measure of our success, but it needs to be done legally.
Yeah, I think lots of our viewers, Mr. Bolton, would disagree with the suggestion we need more migration, albeit illegal or legal. Slightly different scenario, I think. I don't know. I don't want to talk on behalf of you guys at home. I mean, do you agree with John Bolton there? Does Britain need more immigration? I personally argue not. Clevs, on your say, you've said John Bolton's brain has been eaten away by his Trump derangement syndrome, TDS. Trump sacked him for a good reason. Yeah, I argue he has got Trump derangement syndrome, but he did make some good points there on migration. I mean, not the one about us needing more, but on stopping the boats. I think that was quite pertinent. I'm joined again by Niall Gardner and Sarah Firth in the studio. Niall, John Bolton, I mean, he's going to be indicted soon, isn't he? John Bolton. Bolton. He accused Trump in 2022, I think, of showing disdain for keeping classified information and records. Anyway, apparently he did the same thing and he's close to being indicted.
Yeah, I mean, certainly a very controversial figure in Washington at this time. We'll have to see what happens with the indictment question. Interesting point, though, he made about immigration, and I would think that the vast majority of Americans and Britons would disagree with the view that we need more migration into our country.
I mean, I don't know where he gets that from.
I think quite the opposite is the case, and I do think that the issue of mass migration, the number one issue really on both sides of the Atlantic, and overwhelming opposition to the idea of more migration coming in. In fact, we've got to see far more deportations taking place, actually.
Wow.
Especially in the UK.
Numbers.
Exactly.
Especially in the UK. But,
so Sarah, so the Home Office, right, get this, viewers, Niall, the Home Office sent an email around at 6 p.m. tonight, exclusive, embargoed. We got a very kind exclusive quote from Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary. You can see it here, strictly under embargo, first illegal migrants returned in group flights under new UK-France agreement. Shabana Mahmood said, these flights mark a turning point in our fight against the criminal gangs. The failed Rwanda scheme took years and cost hundreds of millions. We're just getting started. We've returned 26 people in a matter of weeks. 26 people.
Pathetic. Utterly pathetic, actually.
I mean, yeah, what do you say to that? Congrats, guys. I mean, the thing is, with these policies, it's just repeating the same mistakes. They are not well thought out, they are expensive, they're cruel, they don't work. I mean, look at those figures. That is appalling. It was interesting listening to John Bolton there. I think GB viewers getting a sense of why President Trump and him fell out. I think Trump calls him a low-life sleazebag, is the term that he used for Bolton. But look, President Trump, when he was in the UK, made it very clear to Starmer's face in front of the British media and American press what Britain needs to do. He said, send in the military. You've got to take a hard line, and rhetoric without the action and figures to back it up simply doesn't cut it.
What is the issue, Niall?
Well, I think in the UK you've got a clown show of a government, really. They're not serious about dealing with illegal migration.
But they say they are.
And yeah, I mean, they're utterly pathetic, full of lies.
But so are the Conservatives.
I mean, they sound like the Kremlin with the kind of propaganda they put out there, actually, and I think they really are, a complete and utter disaster. The Starmer government, and Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, talks a tough game, but you look at the reality, you look at the figures, and they are extremely low figures in terms of deportations. This government's all about rhetoric, and if you look at what President Trump is doing in the United States,
with ICE,
with ICE, the deportation of several 100,000 illegals already under this presidency, using the military, of course, to act against illegal migrants.
But this is so controversial.
This is very effective, and in order to stop these boats coming from France, we need to use military force to stop these boats coming over. This is an invasion. This is an invasion of the UK. And these migrants are coming from...
Sarah, it is.
They're coming from France, actually. I mean, they're
Sarah,
from...
No, you're quite right. You're quite right. Hang on, Sarah. Sarah, you're mocking Niall there, saying an invasion's a bit much. Do you know how many in the Roman invasion of Britain, do you know how many soldiers were involved in the Roman invasion of Britain? Niall, do you know?
I'm not sure the exact figure.
It was about 30,000.
Wow.
Do you know how many small boat migrants we've had? And by the way, these aren't just small boat migrants, refugees, asylum seekers. Yeah. They are, for the most part, 90% strange men from faraway lands, different cultures, alien nations. We don't know who they are, where they're from, what their intentions are. 50,000 in the last year alone. So that, if you want to call by historical measures the Roman invasion of Britain, the Roman invasion of Britain, this is an invasion by any measure.
I don't want to get accused of being a liberal again, a liberal progressive as I got the last time. But
come, Sarah, come to the right. Come to the right. We'll drag you over.
A poem that nobody leaves home unless home is the mouth of a shark.
They're leaving France.
But the stories that you hear behind those journeys...
It's not a third world country.
You know what? This is unquestionably Britain, successive governments, appalling when it comes to dealing with immigration. But I think Actually comparing it to what ICE is doing right now in the US, that's dangerous ground, because when you involve the military, there has got to be safeguards, legal safeguards that America hasn't worked out right now. And you are trampling, you're seeing individual rights be trampled with the state enacting this power.
ICE has been very effective. They've been following the law.
You've got cities protests now, and
they're getting the job
cities
done.
on fire because ICE has been involved, and you've got the courts who some of the judges put in place by Trump saying, no, sorry, this is the state crossing a line.
Migrant left-wing mobs doing their usual, far-left violent protest.
I don't trust the military under Starmer personally.
The vast majority of ordinary people in America are 100% supportive of deporting illegal migrants and using force in order to do that.
But Niall, how do you explain the people that you see literally stopping ICE in their tracks and rallying around individuals, masked men who will not identify themselves? So there is no...
Because they're facing violent mobs of anarchists.
There has to be rule of law in the way these things are implemented.
They're getting doxed by Antifa.
Why they're doing it, actually. And these howling mobs on the streets of American cities, these are far-left agitators, Antifa types. They're not ordinary
They've got
people.
A point, though, about the state going too far and having too much control in certain areas.
Vigilante types. They're violent individuals.
Yeah, I hear your point. I spoke to one guy through the border wall down in Arizona, so the wall dividing the USA to Mexico. He'd been, I didn't believe him, actually. He said he'd been in the US for 22 years. ICE pulled him over and he kicked him out. But he'd had 3 children in the US. He had 3 kids in Utah. His wife was in Utah. And he said he was just pulled over and kicked out. And the kids are staying in Utah. But the guy didn't speak a word of English. So if you've been in the country for 22 years and you don't know the language and you broke in illegally in the first place, I'd argue you deserve to get kicked out anyway.
He's an illegal migrant.
Anyway, after the break, I've got 2 pairs of boxing gloves. Sarah and Niall are going to be having a scrap, and I'm taking bets on your say, gbnews.com/your say. I'm not actually, because that breaks Ofcom rules. Coming up on The Late Show Live.
Will he, in the interests of public safety, follow the lead of France, Denmark, Belgium and others and ban the burqa?
Is it time to finally ban the burqa? Because Sarah Pochin, the Reform UK MP, said a few months ago that we should do exactly that. But now somebody else is taking the lead. Italy's Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, has sparked uproar amongst some liberals in Italy with her own plans. I'll be digging into that very shortly, but also tonight.
Peace in the Middle East. We secured the release of all of the remaining hostages, and they should be released on Monday or Tuesday.
Chloe Dobbs joins us live from London to dive into the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers, hot off the press. You can get a sneak peek of the front and what's inside before they hit the shelves back in Blighty. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
I'll be your dream, I'll be your wish, I'll be your fantasy. I'll be your hope, I'll be your love, be everything that you need. I love you more with every breath, truly, madly, deeply do. I will be strong, I will be faithful.
I'm not sure what that compilation was, but absolutely banging tune. I think it was Savage Garden. I think it was the late 90s, early 2000s. Very good. Welcome back to the Late Show Live. That's the analysis tonight of The Guardian. Truly, madly, deeply, Trump's desire for a Nobel Peace Prize is driving diplomacy. And within the next hour, I'll speak to one man who knows all too well why President Trump has succeeded when Obama and Biden couldn't. That's coming up shortly, but first let's see how some of the other newspapers have written up today's news. Oh, I'm sad Savage Garden's gone. The Daily Telegraph splashes with Donald Trump says we have peace in the Middle East after announcing hostages will be freed early next week as Israel and Hamas of course sign a deal to end the war. The Daily Mail headline reads Hamas, the war is over after President Trump announced the breakthrough on Truth Social. The New York Post, the headline reads, that's all folks, as a senior Hamas chief declares the war in Gaza is over. Hamas tonight as well saying they want Tony Blair nowhere near post-war Gaza. Let me know your thoughts on that, gbnews.com/your say. Let's go live to London now. Chloe Dobbs is there to go through the best stories of tomorrow's newspapers. Chloe, can you hear me? Are you there? What's your favourite story? What would you like to talk about? Good to see you.
Good to see you, Ben. Well, there's been a lot of coverage about the Trump deal in the Middle East, but I wanted to focus, because you've spoken a lot about that, about something else, which is pretty damning for Kier Starmer. We have just found out in the Telegraph this evening that Jonathan Powell, Kier Starmer's security advisor, failed to release a dossier about the threat that China poses to this country. They kept it a secret from us after lobbying from the Treasury. They were worried about the impact it could have on our trade links to China. So this is all part of that big China spy case that failed to go to trial. And now people are questioning whether Kier Starmer lied to us as to why that trial fell through. Kier Starmer told us that it was because the Conservative government didn't deem China a threat at the time that the two blokes involved were arrested. But now we've had a whole host of people come out and say that's absolutely not the case. We've had a former head of MI6. We've had 3 former Tory cabinet ministers. We've had Lord Case come out. We've had a former chief prosecutor come out and say that they question Kier Starmer's stance. So he's going to have a lot to explain in the morning. Hopefully we'll hear some sort of statement from him, or maybe he'll hide and just be quiet, as he often does when he's in trouble.
Yeah. Chloe, I just wonder, look, people are saying tonight this will be the story that brings Kier Starmer down, but to me, he seems a little bit Teflon. You had the Lord Ali clothes scandal, you've had plenty of other scandals since then, and beyond the scandals, he's been performing poorly as a leader. His approval ratings are in the gutter, the economy is not growing, illegal migration is getting out of control, they're not smashing gangs, the gangs are smashing us, but yet he seems to carry on as if nothing's happening. So I just wonder, will this really bring him down? It seems like it will just brush off his back as it always does.
I think that this is one of the most serious scandals that he has faced, because this one is not just something about free clothes and free glasses and something superfluous like that. This is about our national security. This is really quite serious. Now, do I think it will be enough to bring him down? I'm not sure. I think it's looking closer than ever. But the real reason why he's not going after all these scandals is because there's just no clear successor to him. There was a lot of talk about Andy Burnham potentially being the one to take the reins from him, but that hasn't exactly worked out. Andy Burnham tried to make some moves.
Sadiq Khan?
Absolutely no way. I don't think. I mean, he's not even an MP. Whether it's Sadiq Khan or Andy Burnham, these people need to actually get a seat in the first place. They need someone to step down to offer a seat. And the thing, Andy Burnham was the one that people were talking about the most. Andy Burnham, if he stepped down from the mayoralty in Manchester, well, it looks like Reform would be on to win that mayoralty off him. That would be embarrassing. And then if he stood in any seat in the Manchester area, it looks like most of them from the polls are also looking like they would go to Reform. So it would be quite a hilarious situation if Andy Burnham tried to run as an MP and ended up with no job whatsoever, and both a seat and a mayoralty handed to Reform, and Kier Starmer still as Prime Minister. So I really don't see how that is going to work out. But we've got you've got so many people coming out this evening and over the past couple of days saying that what Kier Starmer has said is a complete and utter lie. I think this is really embarrassing. What could do it is if you start seeing resignations. I mean, luckily for him, in the Labour Party, people seem to be more loyal to their leader than in the Conservative Party, where they seem to always be plotting to topple the leader.
Yeah, well, luckily Angela Rayner's gone, so she couldn't replace Starmer. I guess you'd have, I don't know, Ed Davey. Ed Davey would be a great replacement, no? You know, good, high-quality calibre politician. You agree, Chloe?
Well, I have absolutely no idea what that man stands for, because all he seems to do is go around on paddle boards, hobby horsing. I mean, the man is a joke. And if he were to end up...
I said Ed Davey. It's so... Sorry, Chloe. I said Ed Davey. I meant Ed Miliband, but I don't know why I said Ed Davey.
I was thinking that's the wrong party. I thought for a moment there you were suggesting the Lib Dems could maybe win a general election. Ed Miliband, well, that is a scary thing. Although a lot of people will be saying, oh, hopefully Kier Starmer will go after this. Be careful what you wish for, because what you will get could potentially be way worse. The same goes for all the calls for Rachel Reeves to resign as Chancellor. Remember when the markets had that huge meltdown when Rachel Reeves was crying on the front benches? The reason the markets were having a meltdown is because they were worried that she might go and they'd get someone more left-wing and less fiscally responsible than her. I mean, it just shows how little talent there is in the Labour Party. You've got a cabinet full of people that are completely unqualified, and so there are no good successors.
All right, Chloe, we'll catch up in the next hour. Thank you for that. I'm going to grab a coffee so I can wake up a bit. But in the meantime, here's what Kier Starmer said on the China issue a little bit earlier today.
You have to prosecute people on the basis of the circumstances at the time of the alleged offence. And so all the focus needs to be on the policy of the Tory government in place then. That's the only place that the evidence could be focused on.
There you go. Nothing to see here, Gov. We'll carry on as normal. That was Kier Starmer responding to the China situation earlier today. Sarah Firth, welcome back. Niall Gardner, welcome back. Anything to see here with the China story? Do you know much about it?
Not really, but I thought it was interesting that we've just had Starmer in India. You know, it's very important for Western countries right now to be trying to build up that alliance to kind of see off the threat of China. So at least I suppose he's making some moves in that direction.
Jump in there, Sarah. I have to say, I mean, Starmer's just a massive appeaser of Beijing and the Chinese Communist Party. This is a huge scandal. Starmer just lies all the time, as we've seen just now, actually. This is a very, very big issue. And the appeasement of China from the Labour government is an absolute outrage.
Will it bring them down?
It should.
Probably not.
It should, but...
Probably not. Right, thank you both for that. Really appreciate it. Still ahead on The Late Show Live.
They're poisoning our kids. They're telling them to be ashamed of their country.
Hey, teacher, leave them kids alone. Nigel Farage has hit out at the education system in both the US and the UK. I'll be delving into that in more detail in just a little bit, but also on the show tonight.
Yeah, I was just given a note by the Secretary of State saying that we're very close to a deal in the Middle East, and they're going to need me pretty quickly.
That was the moment Donald Trump was handed a note telling him peace in the Middle East was imminent. So the big question is, how come he's been able to achieve what so many have tried and failed to do before, including the likes of Obama and Joe Biden? I'll bring you the inside scoop in just a tick. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is...
you're
the failure is...
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Will he, in the interests of public safety, follow the lead of France, Denmark, Belgium and others and ban the burqa?
Well, that was Reform UK MP Sarah Pochin asking in the Commons and the Prime Minister earlier this year if he'd consider banning the burqa. I think actually that was her first ever question in Parliament. Well, tonight it's emerged that Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has called for a burqa and niqab ban in public places in Italy as part of what she calls efforts to stop Islamic separation. Under the plans, those wearing the garment in shops, offices, schools and universities could be fined up to €2,600. Well, let's get the take now of women's rights campaigner Khadija Khan. Khadija, good evening. Thanks for your company. Ban the burqa in the UK, yes or no?
Everyone knows that I am in favour of banning the burqa and niqab in the UK.
Why? For what reason? For protecting women's rights?
I mean, it's first of all, we need to understand that when we talk about banning burqa and niqab, it is not merely banning some attire. It's about it's a part of a proposal or an endeavor, a wider endeavor to counter Islamism and radicalization in Western societies. And when we talk about so audaciously criticizing and condemning European countries for banning burqa and niqab for security and to counter radicalization Islamism, I think we should remember that Morocco, Tajikistan, Tunisia, Algeria, Turkey, Egypt, Kosovo, Azerbaijan, Kyrgyzstan, they are Muslim majority countries that have placed a ban on the full face veils and hijab in public institutions and educational institutions, and this ban is motivated by security concern and a firm determination to counter radical Islam and to preserve the local culture. So why it is so wrong when we here in the Western society talk about banning a piece of clothing which is clearly not a benign attire. In fact, this attire comes with a deeply misogynistic, discriminatory and inhumane ideology that
Khadija, I'm just going to bring in my panel now. Sarah Firth, sorry to interject, we're just running out of time. I'm going to bring my panel in, Sarah Firth and Niall Gardner. Sarah, have you got a question for Khadija or any point to make on the burner? Would you, the burqa, would you support a burqa ban?
Well, no, I think whether it's the Taliban imposing women wearing the burqa or European politicians banning it, the idea of telling women how to dress and what to do is frankly a nonsense. I also want to say, guys, you know, hearing the Reform Party, they're calling for it in the UK, it's Nigel Farage himself is adamant. He's against big government. He's against being told what to do on a personal basis. If we enacted that, it would be every single thing that Nigel Farage stands against. No. So not involving yourself in the personal choices of the individual.
Sarah, are you comparing, you know, figures like Nigel Farage, Georgia Meloni to the Taliban for calling for a ban on wearing the burqa, which I think is 100% right, actually. If people come to the West, if they want to live in the UK or the United States or in Europe, they should follow Western tradition. They should not be following Islamic law.
Would you ban halal, Niall?
You know, I think that is a I mean that's a more complicated issue.
Well, if you start banning, what happens if you get another government in who want to ban wearing the cross or want to ban nuns to wear the?
You got 10 seconds.
The burqa is all about oppression. It's Islamist oppression.
In the UK, we stand for personal freedom, freedom to choose. And thank goodness we
ding, ding, ding.
Slavery, actually.
Ding, ding, ding. Time is running out. We were fascinating debate. Khadija, thank you for your contribution tonight. Really appreciate it. We're just running out of time for this hour. We will continue this though in the next hour. Hang around, Khadija, if you fancy returning. More in the next hour, including the first of the rest rather of the newspaper front pages. Back in just a tick.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Any fog will soon clear away this morning, leaving a day of cloud and also some sunny spells. Often quite windy in the north, but elsewhere light winds. So as soon as that cloud breaks up and we start to see some bright, if not sunny spells develop, it should feel warm in the autumnal sunshine. Remaining mostly dry through the course of the afternoon, though some thick areas of cloud across the far north of Scotland could produce some light outbreaks of drizzle at times. Remaining quite breezy here, particularly around coasts too. But for many, temperatures are around about average, if not a touch above, so highs reaching around 17 to 18 degrees Celsius. To finish off the evening, under any clear skies, it will soon start to feel chilly, particularly across eastern parts of Scotland, but across the west and far north, plenty of cloud here, still some patchy drizzle and still fairly breezy, particularly around western coasts. Fairly similar across Northern Ireland, a mostly cloudy end to the day, but particularly northeastern parts of England, we'll see plenty of those clear skies. So turning chilly here, we may even start to see some mist and fog develop during the early hours of the evening. And fairly similar across Wales, southwest England, a mix of cloud and clear spells, but across central parts and parts of the southeast, once again, we'll start to see those clear skies develop. So it is going to be turning chilly as we head closer into the weekend. Some patchy mist and fog likely, particularly across those clear skies in eastern areas, but across the far north, that breeze will continue, the drizzle will continue too, but most towns and cities around the mid to high single figures. Now on Saturday, high pressure remains the dominant force, so it's still going to remain dry and settled for many. It'll probably be fairly similar to what we see this afternoon. Cloud, also some brighter spells, even some sunshine creeping through across parts of the east. But a different story in Scotland. Plenty of cloud here, some quite persistent drizzle starting to push into the far northwest. Still fairly breezy here too. Fairly similar temperatures, highs reaching around 17 to 18 degrees.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as
And now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Tonight on The Late Show Live, breaking in the last few moments, some juicy details on just how exactly that Gaza peace deal came around. Hello, good evening to you. Tonight on The Late Show Live.
We ended the war in Gaza and really, on a much bigger basis, created peace. And I think it's going to be a lasting peace, hopefully an everlasting peace.
The president of peace. Hamas declares the war is over and Israel has just signed the deal. Now, we're just hours away from finding out who exactly has scooped that Nobel Peace Prize. Will it be President Trump? I'll be joined by a family member of an Israeli hostage very shortly. Also tonight,
they're poisoning our kids. They're telling them to be ashamed of their country.
Yep, they're poisoning our kids. That's the explosive claim from Nigel Farage as he accuses the, quote, Marxist left of being in control of the British and American education system. Do you agree? Plus, we'll also be diving headfirst into the stories from tomorrow's newspaper front pages and inside, hours before they even hit the shelves back in Blighty. And of course, we're live in Washington, D.C., just yards from the White House, bringing you the stories America's talking about and that matter to you in Britain too, including this one. I think I'll get a cruise ship back to Southampton next time I go home. That was the extraordinary moment a passenger jet came crashing down and exploded into flames back in December. Do you remember that? Well, tonight, President Putin of Russia has made a rather shocking admission. I'm Ben Leo. This is The Late Show Live, and welcome to the second hour, where the stories get hotter, the pace gets a little bit faster, and the brakes have been dropped. Don't go anywhere. Hello, good evening to you. Thank you for your company. The President, of course, has declared peace in the Middle East. Finally, that's as a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas takes hold, with hostages, fingers crossed, set to be freed early next week. Speaking at the White House a little earlier today, President Trump hailed the momentous breakthrough in the Middle East and claims he thinks it will be a lasting peace. The US President also confirmed he'll travel to Egypt for an official signing of the peace agreement.
Last night we reached a momentous breakthrough in the Middle East, something that people said was never going to be done. We ended the war in Gaza and really, on a much bigger basis, created peace. And I think it's going to be a lasting peace, hopefully an everlasting peace. Peace in the Middle East. We secured the release of all of the remaining hostages, and they should be released on Monday or Tuesday. Getting them is a complicated process. I'd rather not tell you what they have to do to get them. There are places you don't want to be.
President Trump a bit earlier today. He's also heading to Israel on Sunday. He's going to Jerusalem, and he had hinted earlier in the day that maybe he could possibly go to Gaza for the hostage release. I mean, that now, of course, logistically not possible, security-wise not possible. I don't think it was ever happening. But the big question tonight is, how has the president been able to achieve this momentous peace deal in Gaza, between Gaza and Israel, when the likes of President Obama, President Joe Biden couldn't? Well, best place to maybe answer that question is the chief US correspondent for the Daily Telegraph, Rob Criddy. Rob, good evening. Thanks for your company. How has he been able to achieve it? And the question I had as well, under Joe Biden, for example, and maybe even Obama, there wasn't this scale of war or conflict, was there? So it's kind of a silly comparison.
It's a different situation, and all situations are different. Look, the key to this is always you can achieve peace when both sides want peace. Now, I've just come off the phone from a briefing with senior US officials who've described what they said was the key moment when they realised a deal was possible.
Oh, wow.
They learned that Hamas had realised that the hostages they held underground in Gaza were no longer an asset, but a liability. Now, at the same time, they had simply had enough. They were getting weary of the war, and they were increasingly being blamed by the Gazan population for what was happening. So the negotiators realised there was a possibility to get the hostages out. The second part of this is, remember last week Donald Trump unveiled this massive, ambitious 20-point plan, vague on a lot of the details, leaving room for negotiation, as you always must. But it was very, very ambitious. But what the negotiators realised was if Hamas was actually in the mood to get rid of the hostages, to return them, to release them, then you could decouple this first part of the process, the release of the hostages for prisoners, Palestinian prisoners in Israel. You could get the IDF to withdraw, and then you could decouple that bit from the much broader idea of working out who's going to run Gaza long term.
Well, I mean, amazing colour there about the hostages. I mean, so you said that they were being deemed a liability rather than an asset. Why is that? Just because the hostages were getting sort of weary and malnourished? I mean, exactly how does it work?
So this has been the Hamas, Islamic Jihad, all the rest of these groups have always, for a long, long time, have always seen tremendous value in any single hostage they get their hands on. They've been able to exchange Israeli soldiers for more than 1,000 prisoners in the past.
Wow.
These are the ultimate bargaining chips. But they've held these last remaining, what we think there are 20 left alive, maybe 28 bodies. They've held on to them for these past 2 years, and all that's happened is that the war has intensified and intensified to the point where their own population is starving. Very much, I mean, you may be not old enough to remember this, but I remember when the IRA committed to peace talks in Northern Ireland, they realised the war was no longer in their strategic interests, it was better to talk. And it feels like, and there's a big if in all of this, we don't quite know what's going to happen next, but it just seems like Hamas realised that if they gave up these hostages, having built a level of trust through talks, they might actually be able to achieve some other of their aims.
So that said, I mean, somebody else mooted that question yesterday, saying that Hamas must have been really sort of on their last legs to come to agree this deal. If that was the case, Why didn't the IDF in Israel just finish the job and turn the screw and just do what they set out to do?
I think that last step, you know, if you want to really destroy Hamas, that last step really means flattening the entire territory and leaving almost no one else alive. Because, you know, you do have the Gazan population turning against Hamas to a certain extent, but this violence does create another generation of militants. We've seen it time and time again, and actually finishing the war is a very, very difficult thing to do.
Yeah, that was my concern today. I mean, how long will this last? Will we see another conflict in 15, 20 years? As you said, people, those young children now who are growing up amongst the rubble, maybe seeing their family members killed by stray bombs and missiles and whatever else. It's an ideology. You're growing up in that environment. So.
Look, I think this has been a breakthrough. It's an important step in the region and in finding peace. But yeah, there's a long, long way to go. One of the officials on the call tonight, as they were talking up what a tremendous achievement it was, he said, look, we are still here. They were in Israel at the time. We've got to do a lot of monitoring. And he said there's a lot that can still go wrong. And that's even in the next couple of days as we await the release of these hostages.
Yeah. Interestingly, I'm not sure if you saw, Rob, but Hamas said tonight they want Tony Blair, or at least one spokesman of Hamas said that they want Tony Blair nowhere near post-war Gaza.
Yeah.
I mean, if Blair's not good enough for Hamas, I mean, what does that say about Tony Blair?
Well, this is all the stuff that needs to be sorted out, like what role will Tony Blair have, will he be there? And I was talking to a Palestinian activist yesterday asking him about this question, what is the reception of Tony Blair in the region? He rather said, well, you know, Tony Blair is liked by the Israelis and the Palestinians know him, which is not exactly a ringing endorsement. And I came back to the Northern Ireland peace process again, which he shepherded through. You'll notice some of the language coming into the conversation, the decommissioning of Hamas weapons, very much like the decommissioning of IRA weapons. I think that's language directly from the mouth of Tony Blair. So he's got experience in peace processes, but people in the region only really know him for one thing, and that's the war in Iraq.
Yeah. Yeah, it almost seems like a little bit of a troll as well. I mean, it was a separate conversation earlier, but I just thought, you know, the arrogance of Tony Blair to even consider taking that job after what happened with Iraq. Just finally, President Obama, of course, won the Nobel Peace Prize. President Trump says for not a lot. We find out in the next few hours whether President Trump will indeed win that Nobel Peace Prize. Does he deserve it, and will he win it?
Well, I was just thinking again, Barack Obama, of course, won it within his first year. He made a lot of bold promises which never came true. I lived in Jerusalem briefly, and there was a pizza parlour renamed the Obama, Pizza Obama, just around the corner. And the guy there used to say he wished he'd never renamed it.
Wow.
Look, I think it's too early for President Trump. Does he deserve it? I think if in 5 years' time this is all holding together, he will have pulled off one of the most extraordinary pieces of Middle Eastern diplomacy. On a practical level, I think a lot of his nominations actually came through after the deadline had passed for this year.
Yeah, it's quite late in the day, isn't it?
I think on a practical level, and also I think a lot of the deals he's brokered are a little untested so far.
Just finally, Rob, there's live pictures now of Jerusalem, so President Trump will be there on Sunday. He'll be there for, so the deal has been signed, but he'll go there to what, just sort of sign it?
I'm not entirely sure of the time frame, where he'll be or what happened, but we know he loves nothing better than signing a document and holding up for the cameras. He likes a picture.
He's a TV man, right?
At the moment, this is all a bit amorphous. People have agreed stuff, but like he wants something in his hands. He can say, this is it.
Yeah. Likewise, I guess the meeting with Kim Jong-un when he crossed the demilitarized zone for the first time. Yeah, he's a TV man. We forget that. He knows how to work a room and speak to people and create headlines.
It's all about the visuals.
Yeah. Just very finally, this was my question before I got sidetracked by those pictures from Jerusalem. Is this a win domestically? What are the administration? Are they buoyant and jubilant?
It's extraordinary. President Donald Trump is on television today declaring a lasting peace in the Middle East while the Democrats are still shutting down the government.
Yeah.
That's an extraordinary split screen of American politics.
Yeah, and Trump was saying earlier in that cabinet meeting, he said, I don't even know who we're dealing with when it comes to the Democrats. Who is their leader? Well, I don't know who to speak to. They're just all over the shop. Rob Crilly, thank you very much. Appreciate your company. Let's get more with late Karine Unger, the cousin of Omer Shemtov, who was kidnapped from the Nobel Music Festival by Hamas on October the 7th on that fateful day in 2023. And luckily released in February 2025 this year. Layats, thank you for your company. Just, really appreciate it on this momentous date. Can I get your thoughts, please, first of all, to this deal? Are you hopeful? Are you celebratory? And are you optimistic for lasting peace where you live?
I am beyond ecstatic, but at the same time, cautiously optimistic, because at the end of the day, we are dealing with a terrorist organization. And between now and Sunday, there's enough time, but I retain my optimism and am grateful, beyond grateful, to President Trump for securing this deal, this hostage negotiation deal. And I am hopeful for, I think without this, the potential for peace, it was never possible. So I'm very appreciative.
Yeah, it's ironic, isn't it? You have years of those of the left side of the argument calling President Trump, I don't know, a Nazi and Hitler and so on, and a fascist, and he's the person to end the war in Israel and Gaza. Just tell us, please, Leet, how your cousin is, Omar. They were kidnapped, of course, from the Nova Music Festival, and I was reminded of that dreadful day by all the videos recirculating again on social media. I mean, for example, I don't want to talk about it too much, but you know, the bodies amongst the cafe area, the restaurant by the Coke stores and so on. Just terrible scenes. But Omar managed to, was released in February this year. Just tell us how Omar is these days. No, he's on the screen.
Omar's doing very well. That's right. That's a video of him hugging his siblings for the first time after 505 days. Relatively, he's doing great. And I think that obviously behind the cameras, you know, you see him and he's wonderful and he's handsome and he's charming and he's living, he's living his best life right now, despite what he survived and experienced. I think the key is to realize that no matter how much time, these hostages that will be coming out this weekend, God willing, will be there for over 200 days more than Omar experienced. And I just look at Omar on a daily basis, and despite his challenges that he faces when the cameras are off, I say, wow, he reminds me to live life to the fullest. And it is possible for these hostages, despite what they've endured, to live a full life and to live a life where they're in gratitude at every moment.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, well said. I've got goosebumps just listening to you there. I'm going to bring in my panel now who want to ask you some questions, if you don't mind. I've got Niall Gardner and Sarah first. Sarah, do you want to go first and speak to Lit?
Yes, I just think, around the world and here in the US right now, people are sort of have this cautious optimism. And, it's really families like you that are at the heart of this story. So what is your message tonight to the politicians, to the leaders, to those who are going to be involved in this ceasefire deal? It's such a fragile moment. What would you say to them?
I would say keep pushing, keep holding everybody accountable, every single party accountable, with Hamas, with the Israeli government. Make sure that everything goes smoothly, because I waited, me and my family and so many others have waited for so long, and it's now the turn of the current hostages and the hostage families to rejoice and to start also seeing the suffering on the other side, the innocent suffering on the other side. It's time to move forward. So please do everything in your power to hold everybody accountable, to make sure that everything goes as planned, and to remain optimistic and to keep manifesting. It's going to happen. It will happen, and that's how we did it for 505 days and continue to do it for these hostages who have become our family despite never meeting them. We have to make sure that this goes through, and let's not count our chickens before they hatch.
Niall Gardner is here as well, former aide to the former British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. Niall, you've got a question for Leet?
Yes. Well, firstly, thank you very much for talking to us today, and thank you for your courage and for the courage of your family as well. And certainly a very historic day, a very historic night. And a question for you is, what do you think should happen to those responsible, of course, for these horrific kidnappings, the Hamas kidnappers? What should happen to them?
That's a question that's beyond my pay grade. On a personal level, I really don't have an answer for that. All I know is that there are people who are deserving to come home, and as Jews, that's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about the people who deserve to come home, for those that committed these horrific acts on the 7th of October and, for 505 days and now 700 plus days, nearly 740 days. of course they should be held accountable. Of course they should be held responsible. But I remind myself over and over and over again that first we have to focus on what's important, and what's important now is getting these hostages home, and we will continue fighting until every single last hostage is home. So I know it's about to happen, but until every hostage is home, even every body, because every body deserves a proper burial, and we as Jews, we sanctify life, but we also have to honor the dead. I don't have an answer about what should happen to those responsible. Of course, I want them to be held responsible, but I can't even go there right now. I'm really focused on just getting through Tuesday and hoping everything goes as planned.
Yeah, Lee, President Trump saying earlier in the cabinet meeting here that it was just as important for the families and Israelis, Jews, to get those deceased bodies back as it was those who are lucky enough still to be living. Lee, I was in your neck of the woods a couple of nights ago. I was in New York City. I went down to the News Corps building where there was a protest celebrating pretty much October the 7th. There was a guy, we played it on the show a few nights ago, there was a guy flying the Hamas flag. There were other people saying that they wanted to see October the 7th repeated again. Do you think in the wake of this peace deal there will be a need for those rallies, those protests to happen again? Because it happened in the UK. Or is it just a good old case of, just any excuse to go and bash the Jews?
I think it's any good case to bash the Jews. I think anyone who's waving any flag in the wake of an October 7th, if you were protesting for the Palestinians and for the genocide, why aren't you protesting in support of, or rather not protesting, but rallying to show the support of the ceasefire and celebrating that? So there's no reason to wave any Hamas flags. I think that's just a case of good old anti-Semitism dressed as something else. And the fact that we have terrorist flags being flown in the United States of America is absolutely abhorrent and disgusting. And it just goes to show you that these people are not here to support the innocent Palestinians, but are here rather in support of radical Islamic ideologies that are looking to kill and are not looking for peace.
Yeah. Lee, just for viewers who weren't aware of it, I'm just going to play that clip now, and maybe I'll just get your reaction quickly off the back, and then I'll say goodnight to you. This is the moment I approached one of them in New York City a few days ago. Are you here supporting the Palestine cause, or what are you doing here?
I'm just checking it out. I'm kind of new to the movement, but I kind of recognize that there's, wrong things going on in the world.
How does it make you feel as a Jewish lady seeing this happen on October the 7th?
Well, it angers me so much every time that I see him. I come out every October 7th. I was here on October 8th the next day, and the rage I had, I was shaking. People thought I was cold because I was so angry. And it's just so disappointing to see that they're still going. 2 years later, we've been out here every year, every other holiday they come out, and enough, leave us alone. Like, you're so obsessed, leave us alone.
What's this flag, sorry?
It's the Hamas flag.
It's Hamas?
Yes.
Are Hamas not prescribed in the United States? Huh? Are Hamas not a prescribed terrorist organisation?
It is.
So why are you flying that without, why aren't the police picking you up? Because in the UK you'd be arrested for that.
Well, it's called freedom of speech, right? It's freedom of speech, freedom of expression. People can support whoever they want. Just because some government prescribes someone as a terrorist does not mean you have to also agree with them.
Do you think it's respectful that this kind of event happens on the 2-year anniversary? It was obviously intended.
I don't know. To be honest, it might be a little bit disrespectful, but
you're still here.
Yeah, I just got here to check it out. I know about the 2-year anniversary thing that's happening with regards to Jewish people, and I recognize that might be a little bit disrespectful. But sometimes you have to be disrespectful in life to show a message.
Okay, so you support the murder and killing of civilians in a resistance?
No, I do not. No, we don't support Israel.
Well, that's what happened on October the 7th, though. Many civilians.
You know the Hannibal Directive?
I've heard of it, yeah.
Exactly. So basically, Israel killed their own people to blame it on Hamas because they didn't want Hamas to take their people.
Do you feel safe as a Jew in New York?
Honestly, I don't feel so safe, but I feel safer than I would in London. I've been watching what's happening in London, and I wouldn't, as a Jew, step foot in London right now.
So, Lee, just for starters, if that person with the Hamas flag had done that in, say, London, they would have been arrested because Hamas, of course, are a prescribed organisation. Why weren't they arrested in New York? There's loads of cops around there. Is it a First Amendment issue? Is it free speech?
I imagine that it is. I wish it was something that they could be arrested for, and I want to say that I appreciate your persistence in asking the young gentleman who was there for the first time, checking it out, why he was there, because you're in fact right. if you're protesting a genocide or in support of the Palestinian people, there's no reason to do it on October 7th. The ground invasion didn't start, the small ground invasion, until October the 13th, and the larger ground invasion didn't happen until later in October, I think the 27th. So, I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous and disrespectful. Is an understatement, but I definitely think that's something that we should crack down on here. I don't know how, you know, the legalities work with the First Amendment, with the freedom of speech, but it's definitely something that's upsetting and makes me want to vomit, if I'm honest.
Well, sorry. Well, yeah, apologies. I had to show you that then. But I mean, it's on your doorstep, I guess. It's in New York. It shocked me as well. My panel are back with me, Sarah and Niall. Sarah, have you got a question for Lee?
Yeah, I just want to say, actually, thank you for sharing your story this evening. And also, our hopes, our hearts are completely with you and family. And we're hopeful and watching and reporting every step of this. There's no question that, you know, seeing that person with a Hamas flag, that is disgraceful, so disrespectful. And has no place. It has no place in this country, but it doesn't help the Palestinian people who are innocent on one side. It doesn't help anyone, families like yours that have waited so long. So yeah, our hopes, our hearts are with you, and you're a huge inspiration, and your story is as well.
I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for letting me be here and be a voice for truth and justice. And let's hope that this leads to bigger peace in the region. And I appreciate your support. Thank you.
Okay, Lee, we'll let you go. Just Niall's got one question for you, some words to say, then I'll let you go.
Yes, I must echo those sentiments expressed just now, and but also the images of these pro-Hamas thugs on the streets of New York, all masked up, of course, supporting a terrorist organisation, absolutely vile and sickening. We see, frankly, people who support monstrous evil on the streets of New York, London, other cities in the West. It's absolutely disgusting and despicable. And I do think this is a fight between the forces of good and evil here. We must stand on the side of righteousness against those who seek to spread hate and terror, which is exactly what the pro-Hamas mobs are seeking to do. And we must never be in any way intimidated by these thugs, and thank you for your courage and your immense bravery at this time.
Thank you so much, and I couldn't agree more.
Can I ask you if you feel, just finally, do you feel safe as a Jew in New York?
Do I feel safe? I can't say that I feel entirely safe, but I will not be a coward, and I will continue to wear this till every last hostage is home, and I will continue wearing my Israel necklace, and I will continue wearing my Magen David. So I will not be forced to be afraid. But it is something that crosses my mind when I'm alone. I'll say that I walk a little taller and straighter. When I'm with my kids, it's a bit more intimidating. I won't lie. So I don't feel as safe as I did before the 7th. But I won't let anyone bully me into hiding who I am. I'm a proud Israeli and a Jew.
Good on you. Lee, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. You've been very generous, and the viewers, very respectful of you as well. Lots of emails coming in. That's Lee Kareen Ungar, the cousin of Omer Shemtov, who was kidnapped from the Nova Music Festival by Hamas on October the 7th in 2023. Luckily, Omer released in February this year. One of the lucky ones, of course. 25 odd bodies set to be returning to Israel next week, if and when the hostages are released. Coming up on The Late Show Live.
They're poisoning our kids.
Nigel Farage has made his views on British schools absolutely clear at an event for a private US college. Get more after the break. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News. Me, of course, there is no break because it's the second hour. gbnews.com/you'll say. Thanks for your comments. Luke Jarvis. Luke, good evening, mate. Thank you again for your company. I know you're a loyal viewer. You've said hiding their faces with masks or burkas should be ashamed of themselves. We don't know exactly who they are, but they are low-life cowards and weak. Vicky said that process was filled with nutters. It was indeed. One person, there's a clip online, said that Muhammad was trans. Very, very strange. That clip's gone absolutely viral online. And where are we? Tom, you said not just Hamas, all the Islamic terrorist organisations, as well as the global leader warmongers, including BlackRock. Peter, you've said once this deal is in place, the next thing should be a war crimes court to judge the repeated and numerous war crimes of Hamas, just as a special court was established in Nuremberg to try the German Nazi war criminals. Thank you for those comments. gbnews.com/your say. Keep them coming in. Right, Nigel Farage, you just saw him. He's accused teachers in the UK of, quote, poisoning our kids by telling them that black kids are victims and white kids are oppressors. Setting out his view on British schools in an event for a private US Christian college in Michigan, the Reform UK leader claims the Marxist left was now in control of our education system.
They're poisoning our kids. They're telling them to be ashamed of their country.
Oh, sorry, hello, welcome back. He also added that he expected teachers to strike within weeks of a Reform UK government after winning the next general election. And in response to those claims, General Secretary to the National Education Union, Daniel Kebede, said the idea that the education system was controlled by Marxists was nonsense. I mean, I disagree with that, but let's get the take of political and media strategist AJ Bruno. AJ, are the political institutions of the UK and the United States absolutely riddled with Marxists? What's your take?
Yeah, I think sadly they're both infested with it, especially in academia. Here we see so much indoctrination in the school system. I saw it. It's only gotten worse since then. The kind of things they teach, and then we get criticized for pushing back against things like critical race theory and that sort of nonsense. It's only because the propaganda that they're trying to, indoctrinate especially young kids with nowadays is just so bad. We have to do it. Otherwise, they're going to believe lies. They're going to believe to hate their society, their country, their history. And they're teaching things which aren't even accurate, right? I mean, look at the UK. This is a country which brought so much civilization to the world, did so much good. And like every other nation, of course, there's some sins along the way, but they did a lot more good than bad. If it wasn't for the US and the UK, we'd all be speaking German nowadays, right? And yet the hate that comes towards people, especially in history, who did so much good, so that these people nowadays can try to destroy everything. So ungrateful, and frankly, it's disgusting that there's people actually pushing this kind of racist, vitriolic, wrong, and just factually incorrect propaganda, especially in the school system.
Wow, yeah, well said. I mean, look, when it comes to the our sort of colonial past, as people would call it, I'm very, very proud of that. Yes, there were some bad things that happened, raping and pillaging our way through the world, but we also gave many gifts to the world as well. The Industrial Revolution we blessed the world with. We ended slavery. We're the first nation to end slavery as well. So I make no apology for Britain's past. So what is it then? Is it white guilt? What is behind this this sort of Marxist takeover?
Yeah, I think just look at the Black Lives Matter movement, right? They claim it's about racial equality, but really, they've openly said this, it's about pushing a Marxist agenda, anti-capitalism, racist philosophies, things that have nothing really to do with what they claim they're advocating for. So I think it's a push to just undermine our system. Capitalism is the basis for Western society. It's made a lot more people wealthier than not. And you just look at where Marxism, where communism has been pushed in the past, in the Soviet Union and North Korea nowadays, places like that. These places are a disaster. They're totalitarian hellholes. There's shortages. You have one ruling class that has everything, and everyone else who's poor and oppressed. So we've seen how that doesn't work in history. We've seen how much of a failure that is. But I mean, just look at New York. People forgot that lesson. They're on the verge of electing an open Marxist as mayor there to ruin one of the greatest cities in the world. So the fact that people are pushing this, advocating for this is a threat to our civilization. And I think it's appalling. We have to fight back against it. We have to defeat it. Otherwise, we lose this battle. That's it. We have to win here.
Yeah. AJ, I'm just going to bring in my panel who would like a word with you, if you don't mind. Niall Gardner, the former advisor to Margaret Thatcher, the ex-British Prime Minister, and of course international journalist, correspondent superstar Sarah Firth as well. Sarah, ladies first, you want to speak to AJ?
Thank you very much, AJ. Yes, I want to push back just a little bit because I'm hearing what you're saying. I've listened to what Nigel Farage has said. These are big words, it's big rhetoric, and there is no doubt that it is tapping into the fears of parents that I've spoken to, both in the UK and in the US, around the education system. What I'm not hearing, though, from Reform or from yourself there is what would actually be done to overhaul the education system. As far as I know, I think Reform haven't laid out any kind of educational policy. They haven't even got a sort of head of a spokesperson for the education policy in their party. So I think, you know, on behalf of the parents that I've spoken to reporting stories like this, it's all well and good to say that there is this issue. What is being proposed should be done about it?
Yeah, I'd have to look at exactly what his plan is there, but I think you just look at the free speech situation in the UK, right? I saw someone just recently at a protest there trashing Israel, saying it has no right to exist. You say something like that, they'll let you off the hook and do whatever you want. You say the opposite, you say, you know, another certain group is a threat to the future of Britain, you'll be arrested for hate speech, and Kier and co will throw you in prison in a second. So there's only free speech in one direction. And I think that's a main problem. We don't want to see that happen here as well. So you have to have a society where people can speak up, say what they're feeling, say what's going on without threat of being imprisoned. I think that's you know, fundamental basis for any free society. So hopefully when Reform takes over, and if election was held today, they would win, obviously. Hopefully there's a Britain to save at that point. So in that case, yeah, they have to fix the education system. How they'll go about doing that, I haven't been in a British school. I don't know exactly what it looks like, but I think you cannot undermine the right to free speech, and you cannot force children to learn history, which is just wrong. And you know, governments, especially when they're controlled by far left people in power, do tend to push history, which is not accurate.
Yep, I remember my time at school, they taught us about the British Empire, but it was all in a negative light. I mean, we were made to feel like, you know, little rascals. Niall Gardner's here. Niall, you got a quick question for AJ?
Yes, certainly. And like Ben, I'm proud of the British Empire. It's been a great force for good. I think Nigel Farage was 100% right in his remarks at Hillsdale College. Important speech, I think. And I do hope that Reform will fundamentally change the British education system. It's badly needed. AJ, could you also talk about what's happening in American universities as well? And there has been a real fight back by the Trump administration against left-wing control of higher education. Could you talk a bit about that? What's happening on American university campuses?
Yeah, this has long been a problem, and we've had a number of major universities here, right, who have allowed blatant pro-Hamas, anti-Semitic, anti-American propaganda to be pushed. This goes beyond free speech. We're talking about people who, in many cases, aren't citizens, right? They're guests in this country, and they come here and they preach hatred, the kind of rhetoric we hear from people who, you know, engaged in 9/11, other terrorist attacks. We don't have to listen to this, especially when people aren't citizens of our country. So I think he's right to push back against institutions. Some of them have made changes and gotten rid of the presidents that have been behind that and are cracking down on that sort of thing. But the university's here for a long time, right? Especially, except for Hillsdale. Hillsdale's are great. I mean, I've taken some of their free courses. They're wonderful. But most schools here are far left, right? They will push anti-American propaganda. You just go to the classrooms there, and if you say anything against it, right, you push back, you have a different opinion, they will punish you academically. They don't want to hear that for the most part. And it's only gotten worse. So unfortunately, you got to go to war with this, because otherwise they take over the university system. They're able to push whatever they want in that setting. You know, that's it. People will just keep learning lies, and then where are we in the future? We're nowhere.
Yep, indeed. AJ, kick the commies out of education. In fact, kick the commies out of every institution across the USA and the UK. And yeah, there's a reason that homeschooling is absolutely exploding. Not sure about the US, but in the UK at least, homeschooling is on the rise more than ever before. AJ Bruno, thank you very much. Political and media strategist. Really appreciate your company. Great talking to you. One quick comment on your say, Aid. Good evening, Aid. Aid Henson, you said 170,000, or was it 17,000? I think it's 17,000 sailors we lost trying to end slavery. Indeed, bloodshed, British blood shed across the oceans of the world, ending slavery. You say we colonise countries rather than murdering all inhabitants like the Spanish. Hear, hear. Right, still ahead on The Late Show Live.
He literally made money by charging women on the promise that he could literally enlarge the size of their breasts by hypnotising them.
This explosive, extraordinary row between Reform UK's Zia Youssef and the new Green Party leader Zach Polanski tonight. It was incredible. The clip is coming imminently. Also, though, on the show tonight before that. Yeah, that was the moment an Azerbaijan Airlines passenger jet came crashing out of the sky in December. Do you remember? Well, tonight President Putin of Russia has made a rather shocking admission. More on that in just a tick.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Any fog will soon clear away this morning, leaving a day of cloud and also some sunny spells. Often quite windy in the north, but elsewhere light winds. So as soon as that cloud breaks up and we start to see some bright, if not sunny spells develop, it should feel warm in the autumnal sunshine. Remaining mostly dry through the course of the afternoon, though some thick areas of cloud across the far north of Scotland could produce some light outbreaks of drizzle at times. Remaining quite breezy here, particularly around coasts too. But for many, temperatures are around about average, if not a touch above, so highs reaching around 17 to 18 degrees Celsius. To finish off the evening, under any clear skies, it will soon start to feel chilly, particularly across eastern parts of Scotland, but across the west and far north, plenty of cloud here, still some patchy drizzle and still fairly breezy, particularly around western coasts. Fairly similar across Northern Ireland, a mostly cloudy end to the day, but particularly northeastern parts of England will see plenty of those clear skies. So turning chilly here, we may even start to see some mist and fog develop during the early hours of the evening. And fairly similar across Wales, southwest England, a mix of cloud and clear spells, but across central parts and parts of the southeast, once again, we'll start to see those clear skies develop. So it is going to be turning chilly as we head closer into the weekend. Some patchy mist and fog likely, particularly across those clear skies in eastern areas, but across the far north, that breeze will continue, the drizzle will continue too, but most towns and cities around the mid to high single figures. Now on Saturday, high pressure remains the dominant force, so it's still going to remain dry and settled for many. It'll probably be fairly similar to what we see this afternoon. Cloud, also some brighter spells, even some sunshine creeping through across parts of the east. But a different story in Scotland. Plenty of cloud here, some quite persistent drizzle starting to push into the far northwest. Still fairly breezy here too. Fairly similar temperatures, highs reaching around 17 to 18 degrees.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, welcome back to The Late Show Live. Let's take a look at some of the newspaper front pages hitting the press tomorrow, starting with the Jerusalem Post. The headline reads, "He's bringing them home." And there's a picture there of President Donald Trump's head. And I think that's made out of the pictures of the hostages. It says there, "Perhaps it's early yet to say, but in the aftermath of the war, for we are actually living under a ceasefire in a war which has not yet ended." The Daily Telegraph tomorrow splashes with President Trump saying, "We have peace in the Middle East." That was after announcing, of course, the hostages will be freed. And the Daily Mail's headline tomorrow reads, "Hamas, the war is over." That's after President Trump announced the big breakthrough on Truth Social, his media platform. The Guardian leads with a story we've just been discussing about Reform UK leader Nigel Farage. He's accusing teachers in the UK of, quote, "poisoning our kids by telling them that black children are victims and white children are oppressors." And the New York Post headline reads, "That's all, folks, as a senior Hamas chief declares the war in Gaza is over." And the Washington Post has the latest on the Justice Department winning an indictment against New York Attorney General Letitia James, accusing her of committing mortgage fraud when she purchased a property in Virginia in 2023. And it was Letitia James, of course, Niall Gardner, who went after Trump with what case? Was it the New York banking case, the loan case?
Yeah, I believe so, and it's quite a while ago now. But I do recall her as being a particularly nasty and unpleasant figure, with a real political agenda behind her. So, so we'll see what happens next.
Far left lunatic DA who went after President Trump with lawfare, and she celebrated it on social media. Anyway, now President Trump's getting his revenge, I guess, because she's being indicted as well. Happy days. Let me know your thoughts. gbnews.com/your say. Chloe Dobbs is down the line in London to go through the newspaper front pages. Chloe, welcome back. What stories caught your eye, Chloe?
Well, to take a little bit of a break away from Gaza, let's take a look at what's happening in Spain. So Spain's electricity grid is being, well, it's not coping very well with their net zero policies, because apparently they might have blackouts there once again. They had them back in April. I believe you were out there in Spain, Ben, doing some reporting, weren't you? So you've got a better idea than me of the havoc that this can cause. Now, you might ask, why am I bringing up some news from Spain? Well, of course, this is a warning as to what is potentially to come in Britain if Ed Miliband is to have his ways with 95% renewable energy by 2030, which is his aim. The national grid in this country is completely outdated, and it has no capability whatsoever to cope with the big surges in electricity that you get when you have solar power and wind power, where only when the sun shines and the wind blows you get a lot of energy. You need a system where, when there are those surges in electricity produced, that you can properly store it in the national grid and use it when there is no sun and no wind. But we simply don't have that capacity in the UK. So this is potentially what is to come in Britain. I mean, you wouldn't think it's possible in the 21st century for there to be blackouts in modern first world countries, but it seems to be happening in Spain, and it could be here in Britain soon.
Yep, I was there, and just as a reminder, the solar farms, there's huge solar farms in southern Spain, and they had so much heat, I guess, so much solar power in the grid, it just overloaded the grid. This story on the Telegraph, so it's Spain's biggest electricity grid operator has warned the country faces yet another blackout because of net zero after the issue I was talking about from, I think it was April, left millions without power. They're called Red Electrisa. They've requested an urgent change to the way it operates to help it with sudden fluctuations in solar energy. That's according to a document published by its regulator. And Chloe, you're quite right. There was a story doing the rounds in the UK just a few weeks ago, where, I'll read it to you, the boss of Britain's biggest energy provider says households are facing higher bills because of a racket where wind farms are paid to stop producing power. So, long story short, the wind farms off the coast of England, there's one in Sussex where I live, the Rampion wind farm. When there's too much wind and too much energy being generated, we have to pay the wind farm owners not to use it, and then we have to go to the continent to buy fossil fuels and gas to replace what we would have lost from the wind farms. It's absolutely insane. It says the National Energy System Operator, NESO, pays wind farms for the amount of energy they would have created when they have to shut down, and then it has to shell out on alternative energy such as gas-powered stations to fill the gap in the network. I mean, it's just a giant con.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was a week ago we heard the story that we have spent so far this year £1 billion on wasted wind energy, i.e. paying providers of wind energy to turn the wind turbines off, because the national grid, as I said, is completely outdated. It simply cannot cope with the huge surge in energy that it gets on a windy day. And as you say, that then means we have to ship in fossil fuels from abroad. And I mean, I thought it was absolutely laughable when Ed Miliband went round on media rounds claiming that his policies are going to protect us from having to be reliant on people like Putin for Russian gas. And I'm thinking, hang on a second, you wanted to put cement down the last gas wells in this country because you think that in your fantasy land, Ed Miliband, that we can suddenly be 95% or 100% all green energy at the snap of the fingers. I mean, I don't hear Ed Miliband talking much about how on earth he's going to sort out the national grid by 2030 to cope with this. He's got no proper plan. It's pure ideology over practicality with this man, and the country is paying for it. I mean, our household energy bills are now double those in the US. They promised us we'd save £300 on our energy bills, but it seems more like they're going up by £300.
Well, careful what you say about Ed Miliband there, Chloe, because he may be the next Prime Minister. If Kier Starmer is ousted because of this China scandal, it might be Red Ed. So maybe your PM soon. A bit more respect for Ed Miliband. Just joking. Thank you, Chloe. Appreciate it. Go and get yourself some sleep. Thanks for your company. Right, let me show you one of my favourite clips of the day in a heated BBC Question Time discussion tonight in Blighty. This was the Green Party leader, Zach Polanski. Are you familiar with him? He's surging in the polls. He's making a name for himself, maybe I'd argue for all the wrong reasons. But he took aim at Reform UK's Zia Youssef after making this extraordinary claim.
Nigel Farage, he joined forces with the Swedish Democrats in the European Parliament. This is a far-right Nazi group. They want to deport people, not based on the colour of his skin, but from the places that they've come from.
So that's Zach Balansky there, calling Reform UK a far-right Nazi group, and this was Zia Youssef's response.
He literally made money by charging women on the promise that he could literally enlarge the size of their breasts by hypnotising them.
Yes, that is a fact. Zach Balansky, 15 years ago, he did answer Zia Youssef. He tried to hypnotise women to increase their breast size through hypnotherapy. So he was charging women to do this. It was quite a good response from Zia Youssef. Have you heard of Zach Balansky, Sarah?
I hadn't until this evening, and I've been dying to watch that clip. I mean, my goodness, if that is the left's answer to Nigel Farage as he's been touted, they're in trouble.
Well, they're surging in the polls, the Green Party, especially in London. They're on the rise now.
He sounds like a complete and utter lunatic.
Is Reform a far-right Nazi party?
Utterly ridiculous, right? It's really not only factually completely incorrect, but also hugely disrespectful to the millions of people, of course, who support Reform. And this is how the left operate. I mean, they accuse Reform of being a bunch of Nazis. You had David Lammy saying that Nigel Farage was talking to the Hitler Youth and so on.
Yeah.
So it's utterly ridiculous and false, all of these allegations that they make. And then you have the loony left leading the Green Party with ridiculous statements, actually. And they're completely out in another parallel universe, actually, with those kinds of remarks from the Green Party leader. Absolutely outrageous.
It's not just them being a bit inane and stupid. The left people like Balansky. I argue it's very, very dangerous. It's not even a couple of months since Charlie Kirk was murdered.
Absolutely, they are trying to generate hate. Frankly.
Yeah, they're inciting violence.
It will be inciting violence. I mean, remarks like this actually, and they are dangerous. They know what they're doing as well. Hugely irresponsible. And this is the nature of the left today, actually, completely without any decency and conscience, and stirring up a great deal of hatred. And this hatred sometimes leads to violence.
No, indeed. Well, it does lead to violence. Charlie Kirk was assassinated just a few months ago. When you go around banging on about Nazis and the far right and Hitler, if it takes one person, I've said it many times, it takes one person who thinks, oh, okay, well, I'm going to stop the next Hitler. I'm going to do my part for humanity and go and take out Charlie Kirk because I think he's the next Hitler. And that's what happens. You have a father of 2 young babies murdered in cold blood, and it will happen again. Until people like Zach Balansky start putting their finger out, getting some sense about them, and stop banging on about Nazis and Hitler, which Niall said is an absolute disgraceful thing to say to actual victims of the Holocaust, to Jews, then nothing will change. Somebody else will die. And I said it on a podcast, actually, earlier this morning. I fear for Nigel Farage's safety, Sarah, in the run-up to the next election. Maybe not now, but if we're a year out from the next general election in the UK and Farage and Reform are still polling as they are now, I fear for his safety with the likes of Zach Balansky and his stupid, inane language doing the rounds.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very valid point indeed. Yeah, I mean, it is a worrying time, and rhetoric like that just has no place. And I mean, we've seen it play out in the US ahead of Trump's re-election, right? That the Democrats line the criticisms that they had of Trump's supporters. We're seeing this play out now with the left. They haven't learned the lessons that the Democrats needed to learn in America, which is that you can't alienate such a huge part of the population that you then need to vote for you to get you into power. Reform is speaking to a part of the British public, whether we like it or not, and simply throwing accusations around it isn't going to help the left's cause. But I think you're very right that at a moment of such heightened political tensions here in the US, over in the UK, it is dangerous to have that kind of rhetoric and those accusations flying around.
Yeah, silly man. You should go back to trying to increase women's breast sizes through Hypnotherapy. Michael Webb has said, no hypnosis needed for me, Ben. Many steak pies did the trick. Good to hear, Michael. Good to hear. You've got a good set of moves on you. Right, let's move on. Amazon is set to release its Melania Trump documentary in cinemas in January 2026. The film follows the First Lady Melania in the 20 days before the 2025 inauguration. Today, we received the first glimpse at what we can expect from the documentary. It is only a glimpse. It's still a picture. Sorry, it's a still picture of a sombre-looking Melania Trump looking out the window of a car. Was that it? Was that all we got from Amazon MGM Studios? Teasing it, just a picture looking out the car. Well, the question to my panel is, I mean, she's a beautiful lady, she's gorgeous, but yeah, Nigel, thinking of Nigel Farage. Niall, do you think we'll get any juicy details from this documentary? I mean, it's hard to say really, I guess, from that solitary picture. $40 million the documentary cost to make.
You know, I think that Melania Trump is an outstanding First Lady, actually. I mean, I do think she is a wonderful representative for the United States.
Have you met her?
And, you know, I've not had a chance actually to meet her yet. I've met with President Trump on a number of occasions. I've not had the pleasure and privilege of meeting with Melania Trump yet, but I think she's absolutely wonderful. And I think her recent leadership, for example, in calling on Vladimir Putin to release Ukrainian children kidnapped by the Russian regime, this was a very powerful message being sent by the First Lady, and it was directly, of course, conveyed to Vladimir Putin. And what the Russians are doing with the kidnapping of tens of thousands of Ukrainian children, it's absolutely barbaric and horrific. And she raised this, and
it was the letter, wasn't it?
She shone a huge spotlight on what Putin's regime are actually doing. And I think that Melania Trump has demonstrated some outstanding leadership on this and other issues as well.
So, are you an admirer of Melania? I was going to say fan then, but maybe not a fan, but you admire her?
I mean, as a journalist, Ben, I have to be entirely neutral. But I would say I agree with Niall. You know, the letter and the spotlighting of what's happened to Ukrainian children, that was a masterclass in sort of soft diplomacy, if you like, and I think it was a very clever move. I'll be interested to see whether the documentary does, you know, she's a mysterious character. We don't know much about her. She has remained largely out of the spotlight. She's come in for a lot of unfair criticism a lot of the time, so yeah, perhaps we'll see a little bit more about who she actually is.
Yeah, I remember during the first term that infamous jacket she wore saying, was it, I don't care. I don't care, yes. You go, Melania. Right, moving on. Do you remember this? Oh gosh, I'm meant to be flying home on Monday. You know when you're flying, you're watching films on an airplane and you're watching maybe Mission Impossible where there's air drama or an air crash, it warns you at the start. Anyway, I wish I didn't see that. That was, of course, the Azerbaijani passenger jet, which was downed in December, I think it was 2024 last year. It killed 38 people. Anyway, Russia's President Vladimir Putin has admitted that Russia's air defences were to blame for the downing of that jet and killing all those people. So there we go. And I wonder how many other occasions that's happened now with Russia downing planes. gbnews.com/your say. Thank you for all your comments tonight. I've appreciated your company. Michael, I've already read your one. No hypnosis needed for me. I've got steak pies to do the trick. Vicky, you said I'm going to watch the Melania documentary on Prime. Where else are we? Sally, you said Melania is beautiful. Ken, you've said, hi Ben, all reform voters and members stand with Israel. And Annie, good evening. You've said Melania looks so serious all the time, but when she smiles, she breathes light to the world with her smile. Thank you so much for your night with The Late Show Live. Thank you to my panel, of course, of Niall and Sarah. I'll be back here tomorrow, midnight in the UK, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Bev has popped back to the UK, so you've got me until Sunday, and she's back on Monday. And I'll be bringing you a bombshell interview. I can't reveal all, but it's one you won't want to miss. I'm recording it tomorrow in the daytime and delivering it to you hot off the press tomorrow night. Good night and sweet dreams. Mwah.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Any fog will soon clear away this morning, leaving a day of cloud and also some sunny spells. Often quite windy in the north, but elsewhere light winds. So as soon as that cloud breaks up and we start to see some bright, if not sunny spells develop, it should feel warm in the autumnal sunshine. Remaining mostly dry through the course of the afternoon, though some thick areas of cloud across the far north of Scotland could produce some light outbreaks of drizzle at times. Remaining quite breezy here, particularly around coasts too. But for many, temperatures are around about average, if not a touch above, so highs reaching around 17 to 18 degrees Celsius. To finish off the evening, under any clear skies, it will soon start to feel chilly, particularly across eastern parts of Scotland, but across the west and far north, plenty of cloud here, still some patchy drizzle and still fairly breezy, particularly around western coasts. Fairly similar across Northern Ireland, a mostly cloudy end to the day, but particularly northeastern parts of England will see plenty of those clear skies. So turning chilly here, we may even start to see some mist and fog develop during the early hours of the evening, and fairly similar across Wales, southwest England,